Let's get some more people in the chat room, but I have my brother from another mother, Awini Baba, on tonight, and we're going to be discussing African leadership or lack of leadership and the Libyan slave trade in regards to the Libyan slave trade. So we're going to jump right into it. Brother Baba, you know, it's always a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for coming on this late evening.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Diners, and hello to everybody. And thanks for being on here. Um, yeah, I was talking with Diners, much earlier about this issue when it came up, and people, were trying to find out what is going on in Libya and whatnot, and we just decided that it would be best if we're able to talk about it from different perspectives. Like I always do, I am not in a haste to jump on a problem uh, just because it's happening. I I have a holistic way of looking at this problem, and in that holistic view, I look at the causes and effects of a problem. And what we're seeing in Libya is just an effect of a problem.
Right.
That's what it is. So we have to look at it in terms of the push and pull factors. What is it that is causing this to happen? The fact that there are a number of things happening in the world, and if you observe the resurgence of nationalism,
Mm-hmm.
it's not only in the United States; it's all over the place. Europe, you have Germany, a Nazi party, one seat. You have Austria,
Mm-hmm.
an anti-immigration party, uh, has won some seats. You have the same sentiment in Britain and pretty much all over Europe. You see, uh, and I'd like to kind of build on what the Ghanaian president said
Right.
to
Yeah. As far as
the fr-
can you give a brief
you
overview of what he said? I mean, but basically, he was saying how
yeah,
Africa needs to be self-sufficient and not relying on the
yeah,
assistance of
definitely,
non-Africans. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. That was the message, but he also did remind the world that migration is not new, and
Correct.
that yeah, and that a few years back, a few centuries back, not even centuries, a few decades back, Europeans were also migrating
Right.
because things were not working for them.
Right.
So human beings do still have the right to migrate. It's just now the restrictions are different. Like people invaded Africa, they didn't need any permits or visas
Right.
or what have you. Today, you have all these restrictions, people trying to protect their territory at all costs.
And a lot of times it's territory that they stole. Right. Especially with dealing with America.
Yeah, well, the thing pretty much is that, like I've been trying to say, whenever there's a downturn in terms of resources or levels of living, then the people who are, losing some privilege, they tend to squeeze in on the less privileged and say, they're not giving us enough, and we need to revisit some of the things that happened that we said were bad. You see, and that's why it's very dangerous to think that you know slavery is over. Like I've been trying to say all the time, whenever there's a struggle, you'll see all those nasty things come up. So there's those events taking place that have a direct effect on what is taking place in Libya. Um, Now, Libya, first of all, when you look at it, it's not a stable country
No, of course not.
right now.
Let me ask you this.
Now,
If we have time, can we go into why it's not a stable country? Do you want to go into that or no?
yeah, yeah, pretty much after Gaddafi, you know, was eliminated, uh,
By
he
who?
had
By who?
NATO, the alliance. NATO formed an alliance. The French, took the lead in that. Um, but they did it in collaboration with Gaddafi's enemies. Gaddafi had enemies in Libya because we have to remember Gaddafi overthrew a monarchy
Right.
to come into power. So that monarchy and the people belonging to that monarchy do not like Gaddafi for that, you see. So their section pretty much is in conflict with the pro Gaddafi section
Mhm.
right now. And they have vowed, the pro Gaddafi section have vowed never to allow, you know, people, the traitors to benefit from what happened. And so there's a standoff. And Gaddafi's son is now being propped up as a viable leader or new leader of Libya. You see, so it's a dicey situation, but pretty much that's what's going on. So you have factionalism is splintered, and to top it off, now these are you know our brothers from West Africa and Somalia and other parts of Africa
Mhm.
trying to go into Europe are sandwiched within this, and some of them are being they're being viewed as also pro Gaddafi in some cases or anti Gaddafi in other cases, you see. And they're caught up in this mix. But also, uh, I think that the new Libya, you know, is not accommodating to blacks anymore
No.
as it was under Gaddafi, even though, you know, there were still, traces of racism and so on. But Gaddafi's regime was much more accommodating to the Africans.
Correct.
Uh, and this is just the effect we are seeing. And there are some conspiracy theorists who are also saying that uh, that is going on in Libya because they want to discourage people from using it as a route. So they're using slavery as a deterrent to discourage people from even trying to use it as a route to get into Europe. That's one conspiracy theory, you know. But like I said, all these are the dynamics. I don't really care. They're all effects of the problem. Now, the underlying problem
Mhm.
and what it is that is driving these people to want to go to Europe and elsewhere, is what we've been discussing, all throughout pretty much this section is that African leadership has still not been able to decisively, and you can only look at the issue of Zimbabwe, you know, and look at what is going on there. And African leadership has still not decisively dealt with the issues of economic emancipation.
Right.
That is at the core of the issue. And we're not saying that African leaders are not doing anything. And to borrow from what my president Nana Akufo-Addo said is that 60 years after independence, we should be independent, fully, and we shouldn't go begging and what have you. But for us to achieve what he is envisioning, we need to take the right economic policy decisions. You see, so basically, when you look at bulk of the people, some of them are coming from unstable areas.
Right.
such a that's there. But then a chunk of them are also coming from places that are relatively stable
Like Ghana.
in terms of,
I was in
yeah,
I was in Ghana when the ones that went to Libya made it back.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we had about close to 200 that came by that flight, you know. But when you look at it, you see that the people have not really been given a lot of options, and sometimes I don't blame them. I just I keep repeating this issue of African leadership all the time because everything stems from the head, and the head makes a decision, and that's what is the problem right now is that African leaders have not decisively charted a path that will take us to an economically independent continent.
Right.
They have not done that. We have a lot of splintered groups. Even we have the West African bloc. We were supposed to have a common currency that didn't materialize. We were supposed to have an integrated economy. That's still something that's yet to happen. We were supposed to have open borders. That's something that seems to be working for some of us because when you get a Ghanaian passport, it's a West African passport, pretty
Right.
much, and you're supposed to be able to move freely, and I've done that, a number of times. Uh, but the issue is the economies of Africa. They are self-sustaining, and my president talked about the mass amount of wealth in terms of natural resources that Africa is endowed with.
Yes.
So so why is it that these leaders they know all this, but yet they still you know do not want to? Because I use the word carefully because they don't want to
That's the million
help
dollar question.
participate. Yeah, they don't want to. Not that they don't know how to, because knowledge does not belong to one person. The knowledge can be learned from elsewhere. I can point to several Asian examples, like in the speech, he cited Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, and so on, that gained independence around the same time that we
Right.
were also independent.
They
You see,
always use the in regards to judging or comparing where Africa should be. They always use Singapore as an example.
exactly. So that again is the issue. Is that I don't want to create the impression that a lot of people want to leave Ghana. That is not the case. You can see that the flight that came brought less than 200 people.
Mhm.
You see, that's pretty insignificant in terms of statistics. You see, but we don't want to create that impression because that impression is not there.
Right.
Uh, you, it's not like everybody wants to run away from Ghana. It's not that bad. You've been here, so it's not that bad.
Not at all.
But you see, but the creation of opportunities is just at the heart of the problem. And if African leaders or African leadership continues in this manner to dodge the issue of economic independence, then we are going to see some of these things happen on a daily basis because not only in Libya, you have Africans being mistreated in other parts of the world, especially those who migrate from here. I know in Arabia, these things are happening.
Yeah.
You know, people go over there, people go and they come and give testimony, about how they've been mistreated and so on. And basically, if you don't have, a country that is strong enough to provide for you, you
Mhm.
become you become vulnerable and people exploit you.
Yes.
That's pretty much what is going on. And African leaders need to, step up to the plate and do what they should have been doing long ago, you know, instead of, amassing wealth for themselves. You see? So, again, I still feel that African leaders did not respond well enough to the Libyan crisis.
Of
They
course not.
should have, yes, they should have sanctioned Libya for allowing
Yeah,
this to
but
go on in
let
the
me
country.
let me ask you this, Awini. What's there to sanction? Is not a stable government. Like who's running the government right now? Like what's the
Yeah,
sanction?
the issue is there are still people in charge,
Right,
actually. It's more
right,
like an interim government. And there are ways to sanction because Libya is part of the AU, you see. And there are ways to mount pressure on them to put an end to this nonsense, you know. But some of us, me, I'm tired of hearing about effects of African problems. We always, you know, end up with the effects. But if you want to eliminate the effects, then we have to deal with the causes.
right.
And to deal with the causes, we have to relook at African leadership and what that leadership should be doing that it is not doing. You see.
I agree. I completely agree.
So I feel very angry, honestly, that you know, in this day and age, even though we have heard, stories about the slave trade still secretly going on in the Arab world, this is the most glaring scenario of, the slave trade, and it's completely unacceptable.
Right,
And anybody who has some of our people are emotionally castrated, you know, but anybody who is emotionally in tune and has the emotional vocabulary will feel very angry about this, because it's completely inhumane, it's completely insulting, it's completely unacceptable. And Africa has received a lot of strangers, uninvited strangers,
yes,
who came in here and exploited Africa and are still doing it on a daily basis. And for us to be treated like this, and for some of our leaders to simply turn the other way, or to keep turn a blind eye to it, or they still don't, respond decisively. It's such a shame,
it
you
is.
see. And this should teach the youth that if I honestly, if you ask me, I don't have faith in some African leaders, but very few of them. Uh, the youth are going to have to usher in, a new responsible kind of leadership, that will really work to our benefit.
Okay.
But if we continue this way, we are going to lose the very little of our economy we are in control of, and we are just going to be citizens in a country where we own nothing in terms of like government ownership, because the the electricity company will not be Ghanaian, the water company is not Ghanaian. Basically, your utility companies are not owned by your government. Whoever is running them will charge you as high as they want,
Right.
and you can't do much about it. So you pretty much you'll be living in a country, and you'll be working and giving your money to someone else in
That
order to
that that that, that,
stay.
that doesn't have the best interest of the country at heart.
Definitely not. Definitely not. So, uh, you know, it, just to, sum it up, because this issue is, is much deeper than it may look, because there are several angles to it. But I put the blame again squarely on the laps of African leaders, because these are their citizens. Whatever they are going through, is their responsibility. And Africa has enough resources and the vibrancy to produce, enough to keep our people, you know, in the continent and working for the continent. You see, and that is not to say that nobody should travel. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But to have people, some people, even if it's negligible, to have people, you know, go through the desert. People come through, most people go, they go by foot and they go all the way from Ghana all the way through Burkina Faso and so on. They, they end up in the desert, and some of them die there,
Mm-hmm.
trying to trying to even get to Libya to start with. Some get robbed. A whole lot of things happen.
Right.
I know people.
They were talking about now, Awini. The slave trade is a front for organ trafficking. So they're also stealing the organs from a lot of these immigrants as well.
Yeah, yeah, those are all angles. Like I said, when you become vulnerable, everybody wants a piece of you. You see, everybody's going to want to take you for whatever they want because you're just, what do you call it? Bounty. You know, everybody wants to take what they want from you. Some people, of course, organ harvesting is big business.
Right.
You know, so why let a body go to waste when they can take out the organs,
Right.
and some people even kill you for your organs and all that. All of this happens when you become vulnerable, and that's what is happening. You know, to these Africans, and I think that uh, there's not much enough talk about it among the youth in Africa. That's another part of the problem, is that you don't, pretty much don't want to get involved in national discussions and all of that. But this should be encouraged. This should be talked about, you see. And if we talk about it enough, then we'll begin to find, the way forward. But if we leave it to a few leaders who are not directly affected by this, then they go to sleep on it, you see. So I know people personally in my town who have been on those journeys. They've been there and they came back and they personally tell you, how it is and how difficult it is,
Right.
you know, and it's terrible. It's really terrible. And you have fewer people going now than before because when Gaddafi was there, you had a lot of people going over. But ever since he got uh, taken out, the numbers have dwindled and people don't, you know, go to or through Libya as they did. I, I, I'd still like to appeal to the conscience of the Libyans and especially Africans to address the issue by dealing with the underlying causes. It's not going to be done today, but it's the ultimate solution. There's no reason why we should be endowed with resources and be begging.
Exactly. I completely agree.
We 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 have oil in Ghana,
Mm-hmm.
but the average Ghanaian cannot afford to fuel his car if he has one.
Hmm.
He cannot because he's not in control of the oil and he's not in control of the market forces that determine the price of the oil. So what are we doing? and 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 the development of all these resources, the downstream, from refining, all of that, all these create jobs. You see,
Yeah,
they create jobs. So why is it that we are sitting down and going cap in hand begging, and the world is still coming to Africa and taking resources to develop themselves? And
exactly. I
our
agree.
leaders condone this, and that's why I have no faith in a lot of African leaders. They are the ones who condone this, and they get their kickbacks.
Right.
And as a result, some of the young people in their countries will not get the opportunity, which will send them to Libya and other places to be exploited. You see? So we need to, get serious. And I know some of the leaders are not going to change. It's going to take the youth to do their own thing.
Right.
And by doing their own thing, by doing their own investment, and taking control of aspects of our economies, because things can't continue the way they continue. Yeah. So, pretty much, I don't want to talk much, Dave, but if you have something to add, for us, you have a question or anybody has a
Yeah, let's see
question.
if we got any. Let's see if we got any questions in the chat room. But I mean, everything you said was on point. I mean, people in the chat room want you to run for president of Ghana and for the head of the African Union because everything you said was right and exact. But okay, so the I guess simple answer to the question of why are African leaders the way they are, I mean, many people will say, well, because they're controlled by the West. I mean, is that a fair assessment, or is that pretty much what it is, or is it something deeper than
No, I think that human beings, any group of human beings, uh, would like to have it their own way. Now, we shouldn't care who is controlling who. What we should care about is what is our response,
that? Right.
and what mechanisms can we put in place to prevent anybody from taking us for granted. Because essentially nobody should be able to embezzle national resources or shortchange the country or betray the country or the continent for his or her personal gains.
Mhm.
So we need mechanisms to check these things, because as for me, human beings will always be human beings. Uh, it's very difficult to predict human behavior. Somebody can be good today and become bad tomorrow.
Right.
But what we can be sure of is when we have a system in place that is effective enough to prevent individuals who are in leadership positions from doing the wrong things that have long term negative repercussions for the continent and the countries, then we can sleep better. If we don't do that, then we are going to be at the mercy of a few individuals to determine our fate. And to me, that's not fair. It's good to have leadership which provides the vision, but it's also dangerous to have leadership that misleads the people. So it's a balancing act. The person gives his vision, it is guided by structures and systems to prevent him or her from taking advantage of the masses for his or her personal gains.
Mhm.
Because I find it so unbelievable. Presidents in Africa own private jets,
Right.
own monstrous buildings,
Hmm.
invest when they take the money from Africa, they wouldn't even dare to invest it here. They take it abroad and put it in, in foreign accounts and all of that. Switzerland, until recently, was a haven for a lot of that stolen money, and they were pretty much untouchable because no law mandates Swiss banks to disclose, you know, information. So that's my response to that.
Okay. Hey, but another brother had a question. This is somewhat off topic, but it's all good. Do you know of any infrastructure projects that require the cooperation of multiple African nations and benefit all those involved? Can you answer that, or do you know?
Yeah, you see, I'll give you an example. We're supposed to build a West African highway,
Oh, really? Wow.
and that's actually in progress, from what I know. So it's supposed to be possible to drive from here to Nigeria without any hassle on a highway. And so this is going to need the collaboration of all the countries involved, and so on. There's several of them. Even I think East Africa also has a similar transportation
Yeah, but my
infrastructure.
question would be, who's building it?
The what do you call them? The block. Like we have ECOWAS. So ECOWAS
Right, right. So this is
puts it.
this isn't a non-African project, right? As far as who's going to build it.
No, it's African.
Okay, okay,
It's an
okay,
African.
okay, okay.
Uh, what is missing in Africa right now, and that's what is very critical: the skills. Not that Africa lacks the skills per se, but when you acquire certain skills, you need to polish them up. You need to have access to machinery to work with.
Hmm.
And so, if you have a multi-billion-dollar, project
Right.
across countries, so on, and you give about half of the money for the building of that to human resource like payments of employees, and a chunk of that goes out of the continent because these are going to be constructed by expats,
Hmm.
you see. So that's where the government comes in, that we find a way to at least help young Africans to have at least one superior construction company,
Hmm.
you know, that is well resourced, well managed, and so on and so forth. And it can do the work. And this applies to virtually all the sectors of our economy. You see, we need that high tech service. And for that to come, there has to be deliberate action by the governments involved. You see, but there's also another way we can get that, and that's through the $1 project.
$1 project. Okay. And so that would be us taking it into our own hands.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's pretty straightforward to do that.
Hmm.
It only needs the commitment of people to the cause. That's all it needs.
Hmm.
Yeah. Is there any other question?
Let's see if we got any other questions. Now, Awini, am I being too critical? Some people think I am when I say that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are responsible for what's going on in Libya right now.
Well, from what I know about United States policy, uh, the presidency is just a front,
Hmm.
and the decisions are not taken by those in office. per se, the individuals in office. These are long-term, well-calculated moves that, whoever's in office executes.
Awini, hope we didn't lose a brother. Hope we not. Hope we did not lose him. But I always enjoy and love when Awini comes on. I know you guys enjoy Awini a lot as well. I did not connect with him when I was in Ghana. It's just had a lot going on. Apologize for that. I wish I would have. But when I go back to Ghana next year, I will make sure I connect with Awini and actually shake his hand and meet him. So, Tanisha, what preparations does the brother feel one in America wishing to travel to Africa to live should make prior to going? I would say have a network of people and have some money and have money saved up. That's what I would do. Hey, Aubrey, actually, there was a video I did Sunday called pretty much dealing with Ghanaian real estate, and we discussed taxes there, so you can check that out. But this was a great show. Sorry I had to end a little bit early. Let me see if Awini sent me an email. Usually he does. Just let me know if he's coming back on or not, if his credit is out or not. Let's see here. No, he hasn't. So we'll chill out for like another 2 minutes, and then if he doesn't come back on, we'll go ahead and check out. But guys, I appreciate you guys supporting me and coming on the live stream. Make sure you guys like the videos. Make sure you share the videos. Also, too, hit the super chat. If you feel as if there's value in this, hit the super chat. Make sure you guys, Dynas, would you ever be a guest on another YouTube channel? Of course I would. I'm on O'Shea's channel a lot. I was on, it's a pretty big channel too. The Vice Show. I was on the Vice Show not too long ago. So yeah, of course. Best thing I ate in Kenya was choma. I love the choma. Absolutely. Love the choma when I was there. Nothing like it. But make sure you guys are, again, following me on social media. Search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Make sure you go to dynasamir.com. Make sure you go to searchforhuru.com. And make sure you go to amazon.com and search your name, Dynasamir. Please buy books, guys. I've written several, so please support and buy them. Let's see here. Yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and check out. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'll probably be back on tomorrow myself. So again, guys, thank you for coming on. Let's see if he emailed me. He dropped. Awini, you back?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We thought we lost you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So U.S. policy is U.S. policy. From what I understand, no matter who's in government, to me, that's how it is. So in a way, whoever was the leader at the time can share part of the blame. So it's part of the team, you see, for the unstable nature of the country, Libya, right now. And I have heard Britain regret being part of it. I've heard, I've heard some regrets for what's happened in Libya. But, be that as it may, it doesn't change the country policy. An individual can, regret all he wants. It doesn't mean the country policy is going to change. And that's my view.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's pretty sad. What I find wrong about it is that there's complete disregard for the AU. That the AU is just it's supposed to be a continental representative But then, the AU was completely disregarded. And all of this, when you look at it, all of it is just because African countries are begging the West to sustain their economies. And you don't go to someone you beg from to demand respect. He's gonna
All right. He's gonna
laugh at you.
kind of like what your boy from France was doing when he was in
Yeah,
traveling around Africa.
yeah. So you see, so that is the thing. So until you're able to be truly independent, and we have the potential to do so, we have arable lands, we have life sustaining goods. So we're not gonna, die of starvation, you know, or anything like that.
Hmm.
Besides, if you look at how the rest of the world, especially Asia, caught up with the West, they did it the hard way. They had to sow the right seeds, you and they seem to be, catching up real quick. Some of them have already caught up,
Right.
real quick. So it gets to a point where we need to, honestly, we need to forget about our leaders.
Forget about what?
Our leaders,
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and focus on what we can do at our level. And there's a lot we can do.
Okay.
All it needs is to be well organized, well orchestrated, well coordinated.
Let's see if we got any more questions in the chat room. Let me ask this last question. What was the how did Africans feel about Gaddafi?
Yeah. Well, Gaddafi was a hero.
Okay, let me stop you right there. You have many that say that since Gaddafi, number one, many are saying, some people are saying that the slave trade in Libya was going on um, during Gaddafi, and Gaddafi knew everything about it, was very aware of it, and never did anything about it. That's one thing people are saying. Number two, pretty much there are a lot of people saying that since Gaddafi was Arab or non-black, that he did not have the best interests of black people at heart in Africa or globally. But at the same time, these same people will walk around and praise Fidel Castro and wear Che Guevara
Mhm.
shirts. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I've been doing some digging, and I found out there are indigenous Libyans, and a lot of them are black.
Mm-hmm.
You see, from what we know, Gaddafi supposedly has some linkage to the
Okay, okay, okay.
indigenous Libyans.
Right,
You see, the indigenous Libyans are not Arabs;
right.
they are Tuareg and other indigenous groups in that area.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, as far as the slave trade in Libya, I'm not much information of this sort of thing going on under Gaddafi.
Mm-hmm.
It did exist. It has not come to my knowledge, and I still refuse to believe he was aware and condoned the slave trade in his time, because if you look at the things that Gaddafi was doing continent, they were humongous. Look, I'm able to talk to you right now because of Gaddafi.
Right. He put the satellite up, right?
And there were plans in advance to establish other bodies like the AMF, the African Monetary Fund,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like the Central African Bank, or all of these things. You see,
Mm-hmm.
to give Africa the structures need to run out to borrow money at exorbitant rates. So these were all responses. You know,
Mhm.
if you look at the way he ruled his country, work road trip to Ghana by road to Ghana. I was a child by then. I was a child by then, but he passed through my town, because I live up north. He passed through my town and all of that. Uh, so I honestly I don't buy it. Uh, I judge a man by his works,
Okay.
and Gaddafi's contribution to Africa was very significant and good. The other leaders who are supposedly good or have clean hands, have not done anything
Mm.
apart from loot state money to enrich themselves.
Okay.
And that's the best human rights you can have is to have a share in what is rightfully yours and not have it stolen by your brother uh, for his personal needs.
Okay. Shoot, I'll let you go ahead and close out, Awini. Already somewhat closed out when you were gone because I didn't know if you were coming back on when you had disconnected. So, but whatever you want to share in closing, Owini, you have the floor. Go ahead. And if you want to
Uh,
continue, let's go ahead and continue. It's completely up to you.
yeah, but I'd like some questions from the chat room if there are any more.
Uh,
That's
yeah, there's do the Tuareg have Arab lineage? The Tuareg.
that's a difficult question, but as far as we know, they don't because you see, it's even difficult to define an Arab because from some of the text literature, Arab is not a race. There are black Arabs,
Well, yeah, right.
and
Exactly. Arab is a dialect.
exactly. So it's more like a language linkage, you see, and that makes it difficult to classify because I've seen typical black Arabs,
Right.
and I've seen, but the Tuareg are African. Let me just put it that way. You could on them. Some of them look just like any West African, average West African. Some of them are lighter, lighter. Some of them may be mixed. Some of them may be mixed with, lighter, Arab blood. Some of them are also just black.
Hmm.
In certain
And then
cases, very dark.
brother Seth wants to know, how do you feel about the new Ghanaian president?
Well, he just started. It's still too early. So far, so good. We can't complain. But me, as for me, I'm a revolutionary. We want to see certain changes happen, and in direction. I'm not seeing that, and I don't expect it from his presidency because of the presents. They are traditionalists, and this drive for privatization, which I am not in support of. The notion that private entities, public entities, is something that I still argue with a lot because it just depends on the commitment and the monitoring. I have seen private entities fold up as well uh, as a result of mismanagement. Private private companies, private businesses, they fail every day. So the notion that private companies or private entities perform better, for me, it's not well grounded.
Right.
And besides, if you private like what we are facing now is privatization of the electricity company. Ghana. When you privatize, a state asset like a utility, company, then it
Right.
makes the customer, the consumer vulnerable to the pricing mechanisms of the private owner because he's in it to make profit. So what he does is he charges, arbitrarily. You have basically no control over how he determines his pricing. And so what eventually happens is that the people afford the electricity. So in my candid opinion, some of these I don't agree with some of these things. These are and everyone is entitled to their opinion on this. So so far uh, he's doing well
Okay.
for the tradition he represents. He's doing well. But we're going to need more time in order to do a proper assessment of performance. I can tell you some of the things he has achieved within this 1 year. He's been able to introduce free senior high education.
Oh wow.
That's the flagship. Yeah. So that's the flagship achievement of his presidency, and it has been, on his top to-do list, during the campaign season, so on. So they said he's been able to set that rolling, and we hope it's uh, sustained, you know. But pretty much it's still too early to do a proper assessment. But the signs are looking good, because the thing about governance in Ghana is, you know, even when the sitting government uh, takes a terrible decision, the opposition is there, in parliament to argue out why they shouldn't go the way they're going and so on. So, uh, yeah, there are a few checks to ensure that, you know, the, the right thing is done for the benefit of the country.
Hmm. All right, perfect, man. Let's see. Do you know anything about Gambia, Awini?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I have a few links there.
How,
Uh,
how do you feel about the new president in Gambia?
yeah, Barrow.
Yeah, Bar.
Well,
Yeah, Dama Bar.
to tell you the truth, I I don't really I don't see this level of competence. You know, uh, I expected a higher level of competence in terms of, the ability to rule and to make the right economic decisions again for the benefit of the country. But as far as stabilization and it's a coalition that unseated Yaya Jame. So there's now a challenge because he has to balance you know distribution of power, you know in terms of who gets what, who should be in charge, and so on. So handling the coalition is a very dicey act, and
Right.
it's a lot of. But having said that, from I've been monitoring. I have some friends in Gambia. You know, uh, things are not bad at all.
That's good. That's good.
Things are not bad at all.
That's good.
There seem to be efforts to uh, get assets that Yaya Jame, possessed and supposedly belong to the state and all of that. Uh, yeah. So it's work in progress. And again, it's just in order to do a proper, assessment, we're going to have to give him, the complement of time, maybe you know, 2 3 years, then you'll see, his whole plan play out, and then we'll see how to take it from there.
Okay. Let's see here. Last question. Adisa, how you doing, brother? Uh, oh yeah, brother Oyedi wants to know, do you think the youth entrepreneurial boom ongoing in West Africa, particularly Ghana and Nigeria, can set the pace for a new approach to economic growth? He said lots of youth tech businesses are springing up. What are your thoughts on that?
Youth what?
Entrepreneurship. Do you think the youth entrepreneurial boom ongoing in West Africa, particularly
Mhm.
Ghana and Nigeria, can set the pace for a new approach to economic growth? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because at the local level, entrepreneurial activity is needed, and it gives the overall economy a boost. You see, so it's very positive. But no, because see, all these entrepreneurs, they operate within an environment, and if the environment is not enabling enough, they're going to work against the tide. Because I'll give you an example. I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a business that uses electricity. Let's say I have a cold store, and I sell fish. I and I bring it. I have a contact in Accra or the coast, and they bring it over to
Uh-huh.
supply, and I sell. Uh, my cost, my overhead cost, in terms of, for instance, electricity, is highly dependent on the overall electricity pricing system. You see,
Mhm.
and if that pricing system is working against my profit, then it's killing my entrepreneurial drive.
Right.
See, so it's good that a lot of young people are thinking, out of the box, and trying to, get a business going, and all of that. But there are all these bottlenecks. There are all these bottlenecks, and those bottlenecks, the bottleneck is what they cannot change, which is what exists in the macro economy, the national level economy, the taxes, the utilities, the exchange rates, and so on. Now, these can work to their benefit or against them, depending on how they're performing. And yes, these entrepreneurs have no way to influence these factors.
Hmm.
So, uh, also, the entrepreneurship in this part of the world, it needs direction. I feel the governments are still not doing enough in terms of proper orientation as to how to direct the youth, and aid the youth in starting businesses, becoming entrepreneurs. There's a lot of profit in farming, uh, and basically agricultural agribusiness. There's a lot of profit in there.
That's my major, agricultural business. That was my major in college.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
exactly.
I have a degree in agricultural business.
Oh, okay. So you see, so now if you have a government that is pro local agribusiness, then what they do is they tighten the knot at the borders, so that you don't have an influx of food products that can be produced in the country. And when they do that, they in turn promote what is being produced locally, and add value to it and all that. And this is where the real money comes from. Food.
Hmm.
There's no reason why Ghana should be importing rice in such large quantities.
I agree.
You see, and it's all over West Africa. Last time I checked, I think under Yahya Jammeh, Gambia was, on the way to self-sustenance because, you know, he was very keen on let's grow our own food and all of that. You see, there's no reason why we should have all of this arable land lying there and we're importing rice. See, so in terms of entrepreneurship, imagine the number of jobs that can be created, and how the economy can be stimulated just from agribusiness alone.
Right.
See,
So,
and so
so I need to dust off my degree.
yeah, yeah. So and some people are trying. It's not that they're not trying; they're trying. We have a few companies in Ghana that are, doing their bagging. They're growing their own rice. They're processing it and bagging it. You know, but when you have a free market, an open system where the government has not deliberately taken steps to give the locally produced rice an upper hand in
Hmm.
terms of competition,
Hmm.
then it becomes a problem because when you're competing with a country that subsidizes its products so such that they come into your country and they still outcompete yours, then you also need to put in place policy, intentional, you know, tactics to also give yourself some competition. And that's what the governments in Africa are not doing. And they need to be called out on it or on these things. You see.
Absolutely. Yeah, when that's it for the night, go ahead and close out.
All right. So we veered off a bit, but just to refocus on, the main topic, uh the slavery in Libya, or basically the exploitation of African people worldwide in Libya or elsewhere, I can promise you it's not going to stop.
Of course not.
It's not going to stop until our economies in Africa and in other places where we have the African community are stable enough and are doing well enough to place us on a competitive or equal pedestal with the rest of the world. This is what is going to address the problem. Our leaders do not have the muscle to even call out some of these, people in charge where these things are happening. They don't have the muscle to do so, you see. So it calls for a paradigm shift that African leadership now has caused, it has contributed a huge portion to this crisis we are seeing. And this migration crisis has been going on, you know, for quite a long time. It's not now that it started, you see. And if we are going to come out of it, then we are going to have to look at what it is within our countries that is wrong and that is causing some of our youth to lose hope in their countries and want to leave. You see, they don't hate their countries. A lot of them, some of them, when they go abroad and so on. They come back home
Hmm.
and they help family and so on. They just want a better life. There's nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is the approach. People should be made to see that there is a better approach to providing for your family and making a better life.
Hmm.
And that is supposed to be the role of leadership. Leadership should reassure people that we're putting this and that in place, and we'll have it to sort it out, and so on and so forth. And that is what a lot of African leaders have failed to do. and has led to some of our youth, wanting to, risk their lives this way. So we need a new leadership in Africa. We do.
All right, Awini, go ahead and give people your contact information and how they can reach you.
Yeah, yeah. You can reach me on +233 249 831 251. That's +233 249 831 251. You can also email me on Awini, which is AWINI, Baba, BABA, all one word, at gmail.com.
All right, brother. Well, Awini, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much again. Sorry I missed you when I was in Kumasi, but yeah, but like I said, I'll be back up there again next year, and I will make sure we break bread together. So everybody, Dynasty Mirror, the Kafitan Don. Till next time, peace.